We are live. Hey, how are you? Here we are. We are live, and I was trying to having some issues with the handout. Someday it'll all just be like so smooth all the time. So it's a little bit of juggling. You want to see me juggle? I can juggle. Okay, you ready? Okay, here we go. I'm going to juggle these three things. I'm going to juggle. It's my juggle joke. Okay, we're up to a rip roaring start. Crack myself up. That's my juggling. Kids love it. Kids love it. But I make a much bigger deal about it when I do it for kids because I like, okay, your hands is going to be so amazing. Like, I really set it up. Like, you guys are going to learn how to juggle like this. Yeah, I really set it up. I throw everything in there. Okay. Anyway, hey, Doug, what's up? So, how are we today? We are going to talk about career paths. So, I'm Carolyn J. Carpenter. If you're new and you're like, what is going on? I'm Carolyn J. Carpenter, one of the founders, along with Mr. Douglas Shaner of Hollywood Gatekeepers. Woo! So we do trainings about juggling, about being a reader. It is about juggling, really. All the kids are here, I think. We're all kids here. Oh, no, all the kids aren't here. No, we are all kids. And it is about juggling, and life's supposed to be fun. So there you have it. So take it or leave it. That's what we got. It's all free information. Get what you pay for. I'm just kidding. I don't even believe in that saying. So anywho, we are going to talk about, hey, Joy, what's up? We're going to talk about career paths today, and it's going to give you a really fancy handout, but well, it is a fancy handout, but it's just going to be a simple path to it, and kind of a long, apologize ahead of time, kind of a long link. So I'm going to actually just lay it on. That's why I was having trouble with the handout, thought I had a link to it that wasn't this massive link that I'm about to give you. But I don't, so life goes on. Life goes on. Sorry, getting back to StreamYard, so I give it to you. So I'm going to put it in the chat, and then perhaps all of a sudden I'm like, perhaps I'm trying to think how Joy or Doug can get it because no one can see it in the chat. So I'll show it. It's on YouTube for those of you on YouTube. There it is. Can you cut and paste that somehow? I don't know. But this is the handout to the chat. And it basically walks you through the different career paths, which I'm going to tell you anyway. And you know what else I'm going to do is share my screen because I'm fancy and I can do that here. So let me share my screen and that will help. So you can kind of see what I'm talking about here. Chrome tab, career path. Got it. Woo! There we have it. Now I'll scroll. So life beyond a reader. Yes, there is one. And then I need to move this here and go here. See, I'm tech savvy. Look at me go. You have to encourage yourself. Yes, I do this when you're not here too. Yeah, I do. You have to encourage yourself, right? Where's the comments? There we go. Okay, I'm back. So we don't mind long links. I got your stinking links. Okay, sorry. There are many, many career paths that you can have as a reader. And so we want to kind of dive in. So we are right now, enrollment is currently open into our paid course that we have that talks about reading. So we thought we'd pop in here, just do quick Facebook Lives this week, just to answer some of the questions that we get, that we touch on. I mean, we touch on so much. For those of you who have been in the MasterClass, right? It's like fire hose of information. So so we cover everything that you need to know in order to get started, no matter how you do it. But so that's why we are adding these Facebook Lives to dive in a little bit deeper on some of the questions and some of the topics that we hit on. So on Monday, we did time and how people say, I don't have time to do things. And then yesterday or Tuesday, we did money, and people say, I can't afford to do the things that I want to do, and how you can kind of look at that. So these are all still on the page or in the group or on YouTube, wherever you're seeing this. You can scroll down and watch those, or click on over on YouTube. Thanks, Cruffles. And then yesterday we did if you're too tall. No, we did if you're too young or old. It's extremely comprehensive. It is the fire hose of learning. Yeah. So it doesn't matter how tall you are or how old or young you are. So that's what we talked about yesterday. So today we are talking about career paths. And then we were going to I'm changing the topic for tomorrow because that's how I roll. Because we were going to make it so that tomorrow was the last day to sign up to enroll. But we've moved that because so many people were like, I want to go, I want to come to another masterclass. So we added a masterclass. And because of that, we ended up pushing the enrollment deadline back as well. So that means we get another day that we can talk about a different topic. So it'll be a surprise Friday fun fact topic. So if you guys have something you'd like me to talk about, throw it on in the chat and I will consider it. So, because I consider it based on all of the questions that we get, it's not, there's no judgment. It's just we look for questions that a lot of people ask. So career paths is one of them. And yes, there's more. So being a reader is the foundation of a lot of different careers. And so a lot of people actually want to be some of these careers, and they start out thinking they want to be these careers, and so they learn how to be a reader along their way. What we do here is we really look for people that are passionate about the reading process, because in our opinion, that is the huge foundation of everything. But if you are someone who wants to build on that and go do other things, then this is some of the things that you can do. So here's the paths, and I'm not going to read to you because you're readers. So I don't need to read to you. So this kind of describes kind of the process of a screenplay. So basically, a screenplay comes across the desk of a very busy producer or writer or director, or not writer usually. Well, sometimes it's different for writers. In this scenario, a very busy producer, actor, director, whatever, cinematographer, even they get all of these people giving them scripts of projects they want them to do. They can't possibly read them all. They just don't have enough time. That's where the reader steps in. So they hire a reader. A reader writes kind of like a book report known as coverage. And then they use that coverage. They give that back to the person that asked them to read the script in the first place. And then that person can decide their next steps based on that coverage. So if you say, oh, the script has a lot of problems, don't know if you should spend millions of dollars on it just yet, or the script has a ton of potential, I think you should consider it, because you either say pass, consider, recommend. Sometimes they have strong consider. Sometimes they're, if they're a little more wishy-washy, they'll have more categories. Kind of depends on the company. But in general, you're giving one of those three is like, yes, do this. This is amazing. Consider it. It's got some things that need work, which is generally most screenplays. Or, yeah, no way, it's not ready, needs to go back to the drawing board. And those are kind of the three categories that you'll rate a screenplay. And so then the producer can decide on what they want to do next. Really important job, right? And then another path is that a writer might hire a reader, but it's a little bit different. If a writer hires a reader, then a writer is hiring a reader to give them feedback on a screenplay. And so, Marianne, I see your question, and we covered this in huge detail within the masterclass. So have you attended a masterclass? I thought I saw you in there, but it varies vastly. The compensation for reading screenplays can vary depending on a lot, like any job, depending on your experience, depending on the turnaround time. So you set up with your story editor, or the person who hires you, like how much reading that you want to do, how quickly you can do things, you get paid more, the faster that it can turn around. When a writer hires a reader, often, and sometimes it's a writer director even, or a writer and a producer, or it's a project that they know they're going to do. So the first scenario is, should I do this project, read the screenplay, write the coverage so I can see if I should do this project. Once they're committed to a project, a reader still might read the next draft or might, weigh in, because the reader is so focused on just the story, whereas the producer is focused on, all of the money things and how much things are going to cost, and they're focused on all that. Directors trying to get a good cast. A cast is focused on just their one part. Like everybody has their little roles, big roles that they're focused on within a screenplay. The only person that is solely focused completely, and that's it, on story is the reader. That's all we focus on. We know all these other things, and we teach all these other things in our course about marketability and budget and what it might mean, so that you can speak the lingo and you can talk to a producer, and you can, if they're considering something, a lot of the times the producers will say, hey, we just got this great deal. We can shoot this, in Midtown Manhattan. We got this great deal. How much, or it's this bad example because it's so expensive there. We can shoot it in the middle of nowhere in Arizona. So should we do that? I know it's set during a snowstorm, but should we do that? So then you can say, it's a story about building the Statue of Liberty. So yeah, it's probably not going to work in Arizona, but if it's a story about something that it really doesn't matter, if it's more about, like even a marriage story, for instance, like that's a story. It is about the two coasts, that the cities play a big part in that coastal living because of the characters. So yes, in that case, it would really matter. But in some story, I'm trying to think of another one where Harry Met Sally. It's cool. I'm not even sure where they're in New York, right? Yeah, I think they're in New York. So it's like, and that's their journey, but they could be journeying from wherever. I don't think it's really inherent to the story that they live in a certain place. It's cool, but if someone said, "Oh, you know what? We just got this deal and we're going to move the location. What do you think?" Sometimes, those kinds of things, because the reader is focused solely on the story. So, but also a writer, producer, director might hire a reader just for their feedback on how is this new draft? We're working on this. Please cover this. Also, a writer, director, producer, they might need to raise more money to make this movie. So they'll get your coverage and they'll use that coverage to go out fundraise. So they'll go out and they'll take the coverage. Look how good our script is. And you write a solid, strong, honest coverage, no matter how someone hires you. If they hire you to say, I need you to write a good coverage so that I can get money for my movie, you say, sure, if the script's good, it'll be a good coverage. You have to stick to integrity. Do not get someone to pay you to write a coverage bent a certain way. You need to be as honest as always the same, and they will respect you so much more for it if you're honest. So those are the different scenarios of reading. So as you can see probably already, this can lead to a lot of different other topics. And the compensation varies depending on, sometimes you get paid more if it's your third or fourth time reading the same project. They're starting to, that, and then you're starting to sort of be a development director, and you're kind of moving into development director as the next person who really works with the writer. So the reader gives the coverage, the development director, if it's a big company, takes that coverage, they work with the writer for a while, and then they get that script really ready for the producer. So that's one path a script might take. So also readers might work with agents, where agents are bringing in writers, and you're really at the ground level then helping that writer get that script ready before they even submit it to the production company, right? So as you can see, there's a lot of different levels of this, and we kind of cover this in this handout. You can see here's a path, all these different ways that it might go, and how it could go to all these different people, right? And so that's the path of a script. And depending on where you are in the chain, and also sometimes, for example, a script might come into a production company. They are doing this project, but they need, or they get a star. So let's say a star gets attached, and the star says, I need you to punch up my part, or my part needs to be bigger for me to take this role. So then they bring in a writer sometimes to do just that, all they do. And that in some ways is sometimes how scripts lose their way, is they get too many people writing one script. And so sometimes the script can kind of get convoluted because of that. But if you're a reader and they're giving you, then they'll give you that draft, or sometimes they'll give you, okay, we need a writer who's going to punch up dialogue and make it funny. You read these funny scripts and you say which writer of these scripts fits best with this project. So that's called a comparison. So you might be doing that. You might do a comparison of, okay, we've got these two versions and these two endings. Please cover these and let us know the pros and cons of both. So as you can see, there's a lot of variety, right? That's why I can't just go, it's this much money. It's it really varies on your level of how many scripts you're reading. If you're doing comparison, if you're adapting a book, books usually pay more because you read the entire book and then you write all the ways this book could or the things that would work and wouldn't work as they turn it into a movie. So there's a lot of different variations. And then also, do readers ever work as a team reading a script? Sort of. You mean like readers working together? Typically there's a reader on a project, but I take that back. I can't see, this is it's so good because it put me on the spot. It also puts it so you see how many different scenarios there are. In a production company, typically a reader stays with one project, or sometimes they'll have often they'll have more than one reader read a screenplay, but it's not like they're working together. They're actually doing it to see the comparison. And in contests, absolutely, usually more than one reader will read a screenplay, because every contest I've ever read for, they really do care about the project and they really do want to make sure that every script moves forward. So they'll have at least two people read a screenplay, and then if those two people agree, then it will either move on or not, depending. But if those two people disagree, then typically they'll bring in one more person to kind of break the tie if a script is on the fence. There was one competition I absolutely loved that I read for, where you would read your batch of scripts. So they just assigned everything right off the gate. And then you read your however many scripts that you were reading. And then you picked your winner in your batch. And then everyone got together for dinner, and then you argued for your script. And you said, this is why I think mine should win. I think it must have been that I think what it was is that we all narrowed them down and we all had our winners, and then we all read. So because everybody was aware of the scripts that we were talking about, and everybody fought for who they thought should win based on just the script. We didn't even know who wrote them. There's no title page. So I loved that. I thought that was really a cool way to do it. And so as you can see, it varies quite a bit. You typically don't work with another reader on a project. As a matter of fact, sometimes, and we cover this in the course, it can be dicey in terms of a reader comes in with a really solid opinion that you don't agree with, and now you're giving your opinion. You have to learn how to navigate that, but it's a really interesting. It's just a really interesting phenomenon, and readers are really interesting groups. You've got people that are, come out of their cave once a year, and then you've got people that are also producing and doing a bunch of things. And so you've got a really wide variety of types of people that are readers. And so every once in a while, especially if it's a big company, they'll have like a quarterly meeting or something where some people are online, some people are on the phone, some people are there in person, and you get an opportunity to see the bigger picture of what the company is doing as a whole. And then you get to see like, wow, all these projects that are being read and covered that you didn't even know existed. I love that. Some companies do that. Sometimes you're sitting in your PJs in your house. You have no idea what's going on at the company. You're just reading that script and getting their coverage back. Like, it's really, really different. Sometimes you can work as a consultant where you're working with a writer from page one. They call it a page one rewrite. And you're like, page one, here's what needs to happen. Page two, here's what needs to happen. When you start doing that, you can make a lot more money. Just like when you start moving up and getting projects like books and where you're doing the same project more than once, you're starting to you work as a team, often with a development director, sometimes a story editor, and often a producer. Sometimes there's one producer that's working. A development director is often also a producer. So, but usually it's a development director that you're closest to your story editor, because they're the ones that assign you the screenplays. But then the development director can become pretty involved in, they're the ones calling you. And sometimes they're the next level, and then there's a producer above them. Sometimes they are the producer. So as you can see, that's what I love about it. It's like no day is the same. Every day is a little bit different. And I love that about it. And I absolutely love writers. So there's a total pattern to how many projects, how many things, and then becoming, so we talk about this in the handout, like becoming a story consultant. That's when a story consultant is someone who works on the story, right? You sit with a writer, producer, whatever, and you are consulting on that story. So if you have a special skill, like we have Emily, who's our scientist, I was using her as an example because it's such a good one, where she's an expert, she's a scientist. So she can read a screenplay and she can be a consultant and tell you if the science is accurate within this screenplay. Just love that, right? That's a really good example. But if you're a total horror buff and you know the whole horror history, or anything where you have a special skill, or you've been a professional ball player, or you're a musician, or you have some special skill, forensics, that you can bring to it, you can be a consultant on a story. Or you can be a consultant just on story itself, where you're consulting on whether or not the story works as a whole. And that once you kind of get your sea legs and people it's really easy to develop a reputation as long as you're doing really good work, because this is a field where there's a lot of people juggling a lot of things. So if you come in there and you're smoking at this one thing, it's counterintuitive. And we talk about this in our coaching and consulting course, because this is about marketing as well. It's counterintuitive, and you think, no, it would be better if I read everything and I do everything and I do it all. And we cover this in great detail. We have you take a quiz. We help you do personality tests. We have you do time tracking. We do a bunch of stuff so you really know thyself. That is the key to being a good reader. Because if you're like trying to do it all, you'll do it all kind of okay. But if you focus on one thing or a few things, you're going to smoke it at that thing, becoming known for that one thing. And then once you're known for that one thing, then you can branch out. So we cover this really, really like in great detail within the course. Yeah, so Marianne's perfect job for you. If you like working alone, and yet at times you like working with others to share ideas, thoughts, the creative process, the competition process. Yeah, the competition was awesome. But this is that. I mean, this is that. You're very solitary for a lot of it, and then suddenly you're not, and you're in the thick of, okay, let's talk about this. What should this be? And you just meet people. So that's why we talk about this being you're an entrepreneur, because even if you're working 9 to 5, there's 11 to 7 is more like it. But even if you're working for one production company, or you're on a lot somewhere and you're working for a studio and you're just reading for that one company and you're just working for that one company, the nature of the job, when people find out that you're a reader, they'll be like, hey, I've got this project, or, you'll be at lunch and someone will come in, hey, can you take a look at this? Or just that element of it creates this kind of ripple effect, in that you'll have these opportunities to read, and potentially, if you're a writer, write, whatever it might be, but new different things will constantly be coming your way, because this is such a unique skill. So we wanted to kind of touch on that today, to kind of tell you, I could go on, but I won't, because these are supposed to be short. And so we're going to be back. No, that was yesterday. We'll be in Screen Readers tonight. So we'll be talking about this more. We'll come back tomorrow at 3. Post in the chat if there's something that you really would like us to talk about in general, and we'll pop in and do that. Otherwise, I'll just choose a topic that I think is good for everybody. But download that handout. That'll give you an idea, and you can see all of the different career paths, because there are many. So there you have it. Whew! Crank that sucker out. There you have it. And also, the masterclass, don't forget, we've got one more on Saturday. Saturday at noon, you can pop on in. The registration is, it really, yes, Marianne, absolutely. It really is a very unique skill. Super cool skill to have. Sorry, super cool. It's totally cool. Let me give you so it's hollywoodgatekeepers.net/masterclass. And you can enroll in the masterclass that happens at noon on Saturday. This absolutely will be the last one, because we've had people joining every day. More and more people are joining the course. And so we close down enrollment and we close down the masterclasses, and then so that we can get in there and really focus on our students. We want to make sure that anyone who does come in will be taken care of. We still will be here every single Wednesday at 5, where we cover more topics. And if you ever have questions, just throw them in the group, and you'll see that people dive on them and answer them. And then also, there's so many helpful people in here, and so many different types of people, which is awesome. And then we pick, I go through them. I don't typically answer in the chat, but I read everything, and I go through and I pick out the things that people talk about, and I use that for our topics. And that's how, we want you to give you what you want. So that's how we find our topics. So there you have it. I'm missing your chats. And that's how it all works. So we will see you on Saturday. We will see you tomorrow. And then you'll get an email too, because we're going to add a few. We're going to do a behind the scenes thing. I have to figure out the schedule, because the schedule all changed. But we'll also do a behind the scenes where I share my desktop inside the course so you can see what it looks like. We'll do that this weekend. All right. So we will see you mañana at 3, or Saturday in the course. All right. In the masterclass. I can speak. All right, you guys, we'll talk to you soon. Bye. Yay.